The Breakdown, POLI-TRICKS, with Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies, telling you what you need to know regarding politics, breaking it down, POLI-TRICKS. Okay, it's another episode of POLI-TRICKS, you know what I'm saying, Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies. Anyways, right now go ahead and take a little potty break, get yourself something to drink, go outside and take a smoke break or something, or vape or whatever you do, because once we come back to the actual discussion forum part of it, you're going to want to stay in tune, because Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies are going to break it down so you can understand what's going on in this land. And it's a crazy, crazy land. Sometimes I think this is like the Twilight Zone or Tales of the Dark Side or something. That's just my personal opinion. But I think it's just crazy. I think if I was frozen 10, 20 years ago and I woke up today, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? This ain't even America. This ain't even the world we living in. POLI-TRICKS, Mercer Prescott.
All right, get the point. Shit. All right, and now for another episode of POLI-TRICKS with Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies. Merc.
What's up, man?
And we got
everybody.
Odie. There you go.
Oh, Odie, what's up?
Hey, Leonard.
All right, good to have you. All right, we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna start with a couple of quick hits, and these are basically just updates from last Saturday and even last week. So we'll start with on Saturday's show we talked about the show Confederacy that they're trying to put on HBO. And I was watching Young Turks. They have a little segment called Old School. And they talked about the same thing. And they were saying, are shows like this dangerous? You know, I know Blue had the point that they are. And I had the point where I think it is dangerous, but not any more dangerous than Trump goading police to beat people up and stuff like that.
But the thing is, that the thing that him goading, I only saw that like maybe one time, small clip on Facebook, versus something that's a series that's going to come on and on again on a very, very popular network that people actually pay for, right, by the producers of one of the most popular shows ever, yep, Games of Thrones.
Yep, and they definitely agreed with your point on that, because there are people who fantasize about this stuff a lot, a lot, and would just love to just see the South, the South, the rise. Why else would they fly the flags of traitors? They're always talking about, you're a traitor, but the Confederacy are the biggest traitors in U.S. history because they didn't want to follow a changing law, so they decided to secede from the Union. So, basically, it's, they agreed with your point. And I did not agree with it, but I just figured with all the other stuff going on, I figured it's just thrown it onto the pile.
Well, what's the counter show to this? Isn't there going to be an alternate fact show about or alternate universe show where basically not just the Civil War never ended or that the Confederacy won, but there I could have sworn I heard about a show coming where basically
a show Amazon's putting together, but I cannot think of the name of it right now either.
I think it actually came out. You talk about the Man in the High Castle.
The blacks overcome and basically run shit.
No, I'm thinking of something different. The Man in the High Castle is basically has a lot of science fiction to it too, but there's like an alternate universe where the Nazis won the war. And
this is specifically black people running shit.
Oh, okay. Kind of like the movie.
I don't think it's coming to fruition yet.
Okay. That ought to be interesting. So.
I mean, if it comes to a battle with the numbers, I know what show I'm watching.
As soon as they put that show on the air, it's going to get pulled. White people ain't going for that.
I mean, if there's anything with strength in numbers, it's possible. Never say never.
You figure if they blackball Kaepernick, yeah.
I mean, it might be a YouTube Red show, one of those shows, or a title show or something like that. Maybe Netflix might pick it up later. As far as
it just depends. I think it also is going to be dependent on whether or not they just they don't do what Underground did, which is spend a whole lot of money on the authenticity of the wardrobe and the budget on that. As long as they don't do that, they might be all right.
But I think a show like that would probably be healthy. There was a movie that came out years ago called White Man's Burden with Harry Belafonte and John Travolta, and it ran that premise of what if blacks were dominant in society. You know, so it sometimes people just need to kind of look in that mirror and kind of see.
That movie exactly, but I don't remember seeing it. Huh.
Yeah. So I guess they need to see what it feels like to be on our side.
Right.
Yeah. So, and moving on, there was the one last quick hit about Foxconn. You know, the Taiwanese death company that is finally coming to America. They've been saying they've been coming to America for years. So they had a plant in Pennsylvania that didn't pan out. A couple other places didn't pan out, but it looks like
Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall.
No.
That was the first thing I thought of. I was gonna say they did say that they're going to do a sequel to that.
I heard that. I don't know if I'd want to see a sequel to it now. Maybe 10 years ago I would have been into a sequel for that. But I found out that there was one extra part to that Foxconn deal about them coming to Wisconsin, which Scott Walker is like, yeah, we're bringing in jobs, but we're also giving up $3 billion in subsidies to get this place built. Foxconn makes like $160 billion a year. You think they can't spend a couple $1 billion to build a plant? The taxpayers have to pay for that? And now we found out that they put in a petition to make Foxconn exempt from pollution laws in Wisconsin. So basically, when you make televisions, cell phones, stuff like that, there are a lot of heavy metals that are used. So now polluting the wetlands and then polluting the soil. So if we get heavy metals in the soil, yeah, that's big trouble, not just for drinking water, but for anything that grows there as well. So just the fact that Scott Walker is allowing this just so he could say, I brought 13,000 lousy jobs. And the worst part is it's not even going to start with 13,000. So start with 3,000 and build the 13,000 for jobs that pay less than the median pay in Wisconsin. So it's all for show. The taxpayers are going to pay for it in the end. But just the fact that they're going to let them pollute just throws more wood onto the fire. And I know I'm hoping that the people see through that. So, but it doesn't matter for Scott Walker because, I mean, if he doesn't get reelected, he'll get a job with Trump, so he'll be fine. So, now, I was hoping that Nation was on because Nation had he had a piece he was supposed to do. So, I'm going to try and wing it. So, hopefully he'll make it on. I know we're all running on different schedules here. But he was talking about basically Trump basically breaking the Constitution on day one. And it was a story I read back in January after he was inaugurated. And one of the things where he broke the Constitution is the Emoluments Clause. So basically, long story short, the Emoluments Clause, in its basic terms, means that you can't profit from foreign entities while you're the president. So basically, Trump was breaking that even before he became president. So if you're a foreign dignitary, let's say you're from Saudi Arabia, and you already had reservations to go to the Four Seasons for your trip to America, right? But then you break those plans, and then you go to Trump Tower instead. So you could have more access to the president. It's not like they're going there for free. They're paying Trump money to go to those hotels to have access to him. So you're talking about even before day one, he's breaking the law. You know. Now the thing is, the Emoluments Clause doesn't really have. It's not really a felony, and that's something I had to read into because if it was a felony, they would have slapped the cuffs on him already. But it's more of like a guideline, which is why he just doesn't really give a shit about breaking it. So, but let me ask you guys a question.
You knew they weren't breaking it.
Let's just. I'm going to ask you guys a question. Let's just say if Obama was breaking it, let's just say let's say he really had ties back in Africa that were that deep, and he had African dignitaries staying at, I don't know, let's say he owned a hotel. If basically, long story short, if Obama was doing what Trump did, and I know people get tired of hearing that comparison, how long do you think he would last as president? And do you think that don't you think they would just run that into the ground?
No, he would have been gone by day 2, period. If he did it on day 1, it would have happened on day 2. Matter of fact, it probably would have been set up as a trap just to see if he would do it. It's like, they probably would have been like, it would already been a trap from day 1, just to catch him slipping.
I mean, D.L. Hughley was like, where'd they find Obama? In a cave someplace? Like, they found somebody with no scandals. They had to make up controversies for him.
Right.
Just so they could run it into the ground, you know? You had, I saw on CNN, they had this editorial, and I was like, this is why people get their news from the internet, man, why we don't trust CNN like that. They're basically, they had this quote-unquote legal, oh, okay, he used to be an attorney general for some state, I don't remember what it was, but he writes to CNN now. He says that Robert Mueller is going too far by going into Trump's finances from before he was president.
Huh?
And I was like, that's the stupidest thing I heard today. I have to say today, like when the Trump presidency, I can't say that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because an hour from now, something stupider is going to happen. So I have to say that's the dumbest thing I've heard of today. That's how much the standard is lowered now. I have to take the stupidity day by day. But I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've heard today. Is that, Mueller's going too far because he's going into Trump's past before he was president. Yeah, that's what they were supposed to do in the first place.
Right. He should have been vetted like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was, I don't think he was properly vetted simply just because people didn't take him seriously. So by the time the vetting, you know what I'm saying, would have been taking place, like nobody took him seriously. Nobody thought it would get this far. So they was like, I ain't got to worry about him. Like, let's vet the other people.
No, you are exactly right. They figured, okay, all he wants is another season of his shitty show, so let him just run the course. And next thing you know, he's knocking these cats out like he's Muhammad Ali, and then next thing you know, he's the president. So, yeah, you figure like this. They, what was it? I want to say it was Chris Christie. Don't quote me. But when Romney was running, right, and looking for a VP, he had he wanted Chris Christie, right?
Okay.
And they vetted him, and they found out, like, okay, no, we don't want this guy. You know, they found stuff in his past that were just like, okay, this is going to be a huge problem if we take this guy on.
This motherfucker got stuff in his present, but we're not even on that right now.
But one thing I will say about Chris Christie is that if you were a plate of nachos, you are in the safest place in the world in Chris Christie's arms. Because Chris Christie can just yell at people at the ballpark, and he had those nachos just cradled, just safe, you know. And one of the dudes was cracking on him. They said if Chris Christie cared about education the way he cared about those nachos, New Jersey would be in good shape. But it's basically, the thing that kills me is people's... It's not even the ignorance anymore, because it's far beyond ignorance. Like, you know that any other president, not just Obama, any other president with that much baggage would never have made it past, they wouldn't have made it to the lightning round. They would have been eliminated in the tryouts. But, you know, like you said, they didn't take him seriously. They didn't think he'd get that far. But then again, look at all the bums he was running against. Look at you figure you had Jeb Bush, who's from Florida, for fuck's sake, pardon my language. But how are you gonna be in Florida and you're gonna get in front of a bunch of old people in Florida and tell them that cutting their Medicare is a good thing? Really? And you're going to be
people who moved there, who specifically moved there just so they wouldn't have to pay taxes. Not gonna happen.
You're going to cut your Medicare. He's looking at them old folks and didn't rush the stage and cut his hamstrings. So he ran against a bunch of bums. So, but it's absolutely astounding that people can just bypass all of Trump's criminal behavior. So for that CNN writer to come and say, well, it's not fair because it's stuff that happened in the past. Yeah, but you're the president. You're not supposed to be a criminal. It wasn't like, you figure like this. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and the whole Whitewater thing, right? Those transactions happened. Those transactions happened in the 70s, and they had hearings about them in the 90s. When that happened in the 70s, 20 years ago. So if they can go back 20 years to try and have hearings on Whitewater, why can't they go back 10 years? Trump wouldn't even release his tax returns. I joked about it on Facebook the other day. I was like, with Robert Mueller, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. Subpoena the tax returns, and then you can go home, because then it'll just be done. Because you figure Trump's a billionaire, and he loves to brag. He would have those tax returns tattooed on his back. That's how proud he would be to be a billionaire. So it's either A, he's not really a billionaire, or B, there's ties in there to the Russians that would hurt him. So, what do you think, Blue? How far would Trump have gotten? How far would Obama or even Clinton have gotten? Well, we already know how far Clinton got because she didn't get anywhere, because they looked at all her shady past and people didn't want to vote for her. So I answered that question. But how far do you think Obama would have gotten if he had a shady past, especially if it involved other countries?
I wonder if he's man on the board.
That's probably man on the board. So, but anyway, moving on. Let me ask you a question. I'll start you off on this, Odie. What do you think of Kamala Harris?
You're gonna have to refresh my memory. I don't know who Kamala Harris is.
She is a freshman senator from California who's being touted to run for president now.
Really? What's her background though? Like, is she?
Oh, she used to
be
part
of grassroots. Where did she come from?
Well, and that's the thing. She used to be Attorney General of California, and before she became a senator. So,
and she's going to be running on the Democratic ticket?
Yes. Now, keep one thing in mind. Kamala Harris has not come out and said she's going to run for president. It's what's important to her though? Like, as of right now, like, what does she care about? That's the thing. Nobody knows. That's her problem right now.
Be president.
And that's the thing.
She won't take them no seats.
It's basically like if somebody just said, if you had two dudes, one who knew me, one who didn't, and they were just like, yo, you mess with me, yo, I'm going to get Merc to beat you up. Right? And then the other guy's like, yo, you think Merc could take me? All right, come on then. Bring him. And I have no clue what's going on. So I'm walking down the street and people are like, yo, you said you want to fight me? I'm just like, I don't even know you. That's Kamala Harris right now, except for one thing. With Kamala Harris, she went to a fundraiser in the Hamptons for a whole bunch of political donors. So the only way I could really make that analogy work is if the fact that she didn't say she was going to run for president. Just like in my analogy, I didn't say I was going to fight anybody. I just happened to know somebody, you know. She went to some fundraiser in the Hamptons, and now people are touting her to run for president. Here's the thing, and I mentioned this in I think it was in last week's show. They ran a whole bunch of hypothetical, like if such and such was running against Trump now, who would win?
Right.
Hillary would lose. Hillary would still lose. That's absolutely amazing. She would still lose to Trump by like 5
But when they ask these people these questions, though, like, are they asking the Electoral College? Because the fact of the matter is, Hillary did win the popular vote.
This is the Electoral College. This is basically just straight up, like, who would you vote for? No Electoral College, no nothing like that.
Well, then it doesn't fucking matter, because these people didn't show up or show out. So for all I know, you could be asking people that didn't even vote.
Right.
But that would register to vote. So, yeah, Hillary probably was going to be unpopular.
And they usually they usually poll registered voters, but I don't know if in this poll if they actually said registered voters or not, because they usually poll registered voters for these.
Even the registered voters, though, you're registered, but you didn't vote in the presidential election. So you see what I'm saying? So.
Which is why they didn't ask you for any polls. Which is probably why they never sent me any polls. But you figure Hillary would lose to Trump. Even today, she'd still lose, right? You figure out of all the people, all the Democrats, and even some of the people like The Rock, right? And Mark Zuckerberg and stuff like that.
All right.
Who would win by the most? Joe Biden. Joe Biden beats Trump by 15 points. Bernie beats him by 13 points. Elizabeth Warren, I think it was by 9 points. So Zuckerberg would tie. I think even The Rock beats him by like 4 or 5 points. They didn't do Nina Turner. I wish they did. But Kamala Harris, when they ran her in that hypothetical, she beats Trump by 1 point. So you figure you have Bernie, you have Elizabeth Warren, you have her name. Oh, say again?
And this is people without, probably like me, who may have heard the name but don't really know who she is or don't know anything about her. Just for her to still beat them even by 1 point is kind of promising, but it's certainly demoralizing to Hillary. Yeah. I mean, Hillary just had too much political baggage. I mean, there's too much you can go back to and not like about Hillary. I want to talk about fake bullshit like her emails. I don't really give a shit about her emails. I don't give a shit about Benghazi because I followed that from the beginning. I just look at her voting record on the big things, because then they say, people always say, well, Hillary and Bernie voted together like 95% of the time. Yeah, on the little things. But when you have the big things like the Iraq War, like all those spy programs and stuff like that, that's where they differ. So, yeah, they voted together on the small stuff, but not on the big stuff. My thing with Hillary that I'm annoyed with is, I'm seeing everybody knows who the fuck Maxine Waters is. Everybody knows who Bernie
they know now.
Well, yeah, right. She is reclaiming her time and taking names. Cool. Yeah. We know the Queen Maxine. Like, she was on the Breakfast Club this morning. It was a great interview. She actually did. Did you listen to it? Did you catch it?
No, I got to listen to it after this.
She did one thing that I have never heard any other politicians say, especially coming on the Breakfast Club. Mm-hmm. But they pretty much just try to ask any political correspondent or anybody that they know that dips their, that dabbles in politics or is a politician. When can Trump be impeached? That's pretty much what the standard question that they ask everybody on the show. And she did what I'd never heard anybody do, which is actually give a projected date. She said, by December, we want to have him out. She was like, and then they asked, well, if he is, what is the word? What's the word when you could, if he's impeached? If he's impeached, doesn't the vice president become president? And she was like, and then we'll get him next.
Yeah, she is not playing with these people at all.
She is not playing with these people, and I love it. I'm here for all of it. And
the funny thing
I was just going to say, I brought her up only to say, where the fuck is Hillary? All these people are still fighting the good fight, and where is Hillary? She has gone missing just as much as our beloved president. Our president is MIA too.
Hillary's off in the woods, and Trump is playing golf. He's on a 17-day vacation. Most people don't get 17 days of vacation a year.
I'm talking about the only person I acknowledge as president, Barack Obama. I'm 45 ain't my president. That's y'all president. That's not my president. My president has been MIA. He pops up every once in a while, at fundraisers and paid appearances, as well as his lovely wife. But we know he's fighting the good fight. Where the fuck is Hillary? That's my problem with Hillary.
Wherever Hillary is, she's good because we don't want her because she's too toxic. And then when she did try and come back and say I'm part of the resistance, what did she say? What did she do? Well, I'm going to make a super PAC. Yeah, that's the bullshit that got you not elected. Doing stuff for the donor class. I'm like, put it like this. real quick before I move on, right? 3 reasons why I would never vote for Kamala Harris, right? And we're talking about now, okay? Like if the election were to happen now, why I would not vote for her. Number 1, as Attorney General of California, she declined to prosecute Steve Mnuchin. And, God, the dude from Saturday Night Live cracked on Steve Mnuchin really hard. And he said Steve Mnuchin looks like one of those guys who was like, yeah, if I made $1 billion, women would sleep with me. And now that he's a billionaire, he's like, maybe $1 trillion? But, and I cracked because he just got married for the 4th time. He's been married 4 times. But, she declined to prosecute Steve Mnuchin, right? What was he?
Oh, for role as DA?
For major fraud, yeah. When she was Attorney General of California, she declined to prosecute Steve Mnuchin. And then what did Steve Mnuchin do? He donated to her campaign. Now, to be fair, I was not able to find out if he donated through a PAC or if he donated directly. But the thing is, just the fact that he donated to her campaign when she should have been one to put him in prison, that's bad, right? Number 2, the establishment loves her because as an African-American woman, they could use her to browbeat the quote-unquote Bernie bros. It's basically like blocking a supermarket aisle with your shopping cart, but your shopping cart has a baby in it. So now I can't touch your cart because if I do, I'm the monster. So.
Well, if that's the case, then Hillary would have gotten it because, I mean, she's not black, but she was a woman, so it's not about.
Well, now
it's about picking the best person for the job. Like that's one thing I will give, quote unquote, Bernie bros. I ain't never heard them come talk sideways about Hillary's gender. Like, I've never heard anybody who really supported Bernie talk about that.
Right. And there were some fake Bernie bros out there trying to make people look bad. But, I mean, if you're on, like, I follow the Bernie or Bust hashtag on Twitter a lot, and people were just talking about Hillary's record. And every now and then somebody would talk about emails, but mostly people were just talking about, you know, how she used to vote, how people would just, like, throw money at her and she'll change her vote. You know, she was too corporate, you know. You figure it like this, though. The fact that Kamala Harris is a woman and black, that's like double down because then you could just say, okay, you're not just a sexist, you're a racist as well. And you already have people like Joyanne Reid. Oh, my God. You know, I don't condone hitting women. You know, I'm just going to stop right there. But with Joyanne Reid, it's just basically she just hates Bernie supporters, hates them. And, you know, she's on the Kamala Harris bandwagon, and there are already people out there saying, well, you know, if you don't like Kamala Harris, there's something wrong with you. So I see the Bernie or Bust 2.0 starting already, you know. And last but not least, she hasn't done anything. She's a freshman senator. She just started this year. She's only been a senator for 7 months. You figure Obama was a one-term senator when he ran for president. But he ran for president at the end of his term. So he had done something. You know? He had a voting record that you could fall back on. That he talked about in his campaign, how he was one of the senators who did not vote for the Iraq War. He thought it was ridiculous. Him and Bernie Sanders both, you know. But Hillary voted for the Iraq War, and that's something that they've thrown in her face all the time. Kamala Harris doesn't have a voting record, and it's not really her fault because Congress hasn't done anything. But that's the thing. No one knows what Kamala Harris stands for because nothing is really, I mean, aside from the healthcare vote, which is an easy vote. Of course she voted no. But there's really nothing for her to fall back on. So it's way too early to push her out there. They're pushing her out there because she's a blank canvas for them to paint their ideas on. Now, if they were pushing Nina Turner like that, yeah, I'd be all on it. I'd be like, shut up and take my vote. So, but before I move on, any thoughts about, like, put it like this, before we move on. I know it's only 2017, We had 3 more years before the election. If the election were to happen today, and if you could vote for anybody, who would you vote for?
I can vote for anybody?
Yeah.
Barack Obama.
Okay, I shouldn't have said anybody. That's my fault. Anybody who's eligible.
Anybody who's eligible.
Yeah.
I did vote for Bernie in the primaries. I will vote for Bernie.
Yeah. I'd vote for him as well. Put it like this. Only way I would not vote for Bernie is if Bernie wasn't running and Nina Turner ran. And I'm like, okay, I'd vote for Nina Turner. And I was talking about Tulsi Gabbard, but the more I look into Tulsi, the more I think that while I like Tulsi Gabbard a lot, I don't think she's ready. So I think she needs to be in the oven another couple of years before she can get on the big stage. But I do like Tulsi Gabbard, though. But right now, I'd go Nina Turner. You know, I would love to see Bernie Sanders with Nina Turner as vice president. Oh yeah, it'd be done. But and the same people who think that Bernie Sanders is too old to run are the same people who think that Nancy Pelosi should still be leader of the Democratic Party, despite the fact that Nancy Pelosi and Bernie are like the same age. I think she might be older than Bernie. Don't quote me, but she's in her either early or mid 70s. So. Now, everybody always has like a fantasy. They always talk about like, what would I do if I win the lottery? And for the longest time, I had that mental spreadsheet in my head of who's getting what money. You know, I said I was gonna go to my job in a fur coat, a fake fur coat. I wouldn't need a real fur coat, and just hand out checks to all my coworkers and stuff like that. Everybody has those goofy fantasies, but. Me, right. I was joking with Blue before the show. I was like, I need to start dating again because I think about what I would do if I was president. And I thought this was just going to be like a one and done. No. It's going to be like a little series because I didn't realize how much thought I put into what I would do if I was the president. You know? But one of the things that I would do is I would trim down the military. Put it like this, right? And I couldn't find 2016 numbers. So I had to go 2015, 2014, right? So you figure I think this is 2014 numbers. The United States spent $610 billion on the military, right? On defense. They just call it defense, right? Uh-huh. We spend more than the next 7 countries combined. So you figure that's more than Germany, India, UK, France, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and China. All those countries spent $601 billion total. We spent $610 billion on the military, right? And this was from PolitiFact, who gets on my nerves sometimes. They couldn't just say, because Obama made that claim that we spend more than the next, I think he said 8 countries combined. And they couldn't just say, yeah, Obama's right. They had to say, no, it's really 7, and then start messing with the numbers. So I'm like, screw you, PolitiFact, you suck. But in the 2014 numbers, they said the United States spent $581 billion on the military. And the next 8 highest spenders combined for $531 billion. So we spent the next 8 countries, and we beat them by $50 billion. Right? So look at this, right? And the numbers, they said 581. This one, a different. This was from International Institute for Strategic Studies, and they break down those 2015 numbers, right? They said the United States spent $598 billion. They said 601. They say 598, right? So the next 14 countries. So that's South Korea, Iraq, Italy, Australia, Brazil, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Russia, UK, Germany, Japan, France, India, and China. Those countries spent $664 billion on defense. And then the rest of the world spent a combined $317 billion. So if you take out the top 14 countries after the U.S., we almost double what the rest of the world spends on the military. That's absolutely horrible, right? And then if you take it a little bit further, right? Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I was just going to say, But this includes everything, not just, like, I'm not thinking just as far as, like, weapons and, you know, things like that. I'm thinking, like, administrative stuff, too, right?
Yes. Absolutely. It includes everything.
So daycare, housing,
soldiers' pay, everything. Yes.
Salary.
It does include everything. Mm-hmm. But think about it like this, right? If you look at the the 2015 spending, right, and this is for the country, the $598 billion, that's 54% of our discretionary spending. So in 2015, our budget was $1.1 trillion. 54% of that was military. Then you had, it breaks it down, food and agriculture, transportation, Social Security, unemployment and labor, science, energy, international affairs, housing, veterans benefits, Medicare and health, education, and then government. So government and education are the two biggest ones after that, at $70 billion and at $72 billion for government. But both of those are 6% of that pie. Medicare and health is 6%. Veterans benefits is 6%. Food and agriculture is 1%. Transportation is 2%. Military is 54%.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. And we outspend 10 to like 8, 9 other countries by ourselves. Right? Put it like this, right?
The education part is really what's irritating to me, just because I have so many friends and associates that are teachers that choose to do that shit. I would no way in hell that I would be the teachers for some ungrateful ass pay. Like, it's the pay is disrespectful. Like, I'm not gonna do it. It's not. And then I gotta spend money on my own pocket for supplies. No, and you got it? Nah, I won't do it. I couldn't do it to myself. Shout out to all the teachers, because I can't do it.
Yeah, and you figure $70 billion may seem like a lot, but when you consider the country, right? You figure my hometown of Freeport, New York, has 40,000 people in it, right? And they have 4 elementary schools, right? A middle school, a junior high school, and then a high school. So you talk about 7 schools in a town of 40,000 people, right? So you figure you go across the country, and how many, I didn't look up how many schools there are in the country, but you figure if a town of 40,000 people has 7 schools, right? How many schools are there in New York alone? Considering the fact that New York has almost 30 million people in it.
And they're overpopulated, though.
Yeah. Well, New York City is. If you go upstate, they're more spread out.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But New York City, you figure New York City alone is 8 million people. So, and you just go across the country to big states like Texas, California, Florida. So 70 billion, and then Trump wants to cut education and put more into the military.
Salary, like houseway, like that math don't add up. If you would have stayed your ass in school, you would know that. He would have to donate so many years worth of his salary in order to make up for that.
Yeah. And you figure with Trump's his goofy propaganda news network with his dumbass daughter-in-law running it, they talk about and President Trump is donating his paycheck. Yeah, his paycheck is like $80,000-$90,000 or whatever it is. You want to cut education by how many billions of dollars? The fear to the military, who already has enough. And I figured, okay, let's just say if I was president, how would I handle this? First of all, they'd have to kill me, because the military-industrial complex is not going to like me. First thing I would do, number one, is I would trim the budget by 33%. But even by 33%, you figure at $598 billion, if I trim 33%, that's still $400 billion, right? Because we need to make sure that they're running, but all that extra fat, we can just trim all that off. So that would give us an extra $198 billion per year. Now, keep in mind, that $198 billion, so you're going to trim 33% off of the military budget, right? That leaves you with $198 billion. That is still more than any one of the other things that we spend on in the major categories. So that's still more than the government, education, and Medicare and health combined. And that's 33% off of the military budget. And that military budget would still be by far the largest piece of the pie, because as it is now, it's 54%. There is no other slice of that pie that even hits 7%. So figure it like this, right? You trim that money off, right? It's not going to hurt soldiers' pay, anything like that. What it's going to hurt is the military contractors, right? Put it like this.
Yes.
You ever see a movie called...
But see, that's the thing, though. That's where the corporate side comes into it, because I'm sure, I mean, yeah, they would come for you. You would die. They'll try.
No. Oh, yeah. They'd be like, hey, we think you're doing such a great job. We're giving you a parade in Dallas in a convertible. Make sure to stand up. But you ever see a movie called Envy? Came out like in 2004, 2005, had Ben Stiller and Jack Black in it, where Jack Black
vaguely, it was a dark comedy. I vaguely remember it, but yeah, no, I don't really, but I do remember it. Yeah,
he made that spray that you sprayed on dog poop and it makes it disappear, and he became like filthy stinking rich over it. And the thing is this, right? This is the part that got me, is not to go too much into it, because I know there's not a movie review, but Jack Black's character told, I'll just call him Jack and Ben. So Jack basically told Ben, you can get in on this for like $1,500. I just need the money, because he had a couple of people investing. Like, look, you give me $1,500, right? So I can make this formula, then I could sell it and make all this money, right? The key point to that is they had to actually make the stuff. They can't just take the formula to a company and tell a company, look, we need you to make this for us because it's going to work. No, you have to make it and then take it to them and then demonstrate it to them that it works.
Yeah, well, the part
they'll buy it off of you. The problem that we have with the military, and this information was a little bit tougher for me to find. If anybody else has better access to this information, please let us know. Absolutely. But when they talk about all these defense contractors who make all this stuff that doesn't work, so they make planes that don't fly, they make boats that capsize at the first wave, they make body armor that couldn't stop BBs, it's because we're paying for prototypes. Now, if you're paying for a prototype of a spray that removes dog dew from your lawn, that's one thing. If you're paying for a prototype of a jet fighter, that's a different matter altogether. And
show me the money. Show me the money first. Show me how it works. Come to the table with your shit together. We need to be on Shark Tank, and you show it to me on Shark Tank. Not exactly. I'm going to pay you the money, and you come up with the idea later.
And we haven't spent billions on this crap. We've spent trillions to these contractors for shit that doesn't work because we're paying for prototypes. That's why we could easily trim 33% off the budget and have it not affect anything. Everything would run exactly the same. I'm like, look, if you can't build a better plane, improve the old ones. But if you can't build me a prototype that could do something, I can't do nothing for you, man. That's it. It's done. Get the fuck out of my office. I don't understand how people aren't more... I do understand how people aren't more enraged about this. I do, because there's so much going on. There's so much going on.
They try to keep emotional, like the whole military being supportive of our military means supporting, just like the police. It means supporting everything they do, even when they're doing shit wrong. It means that if you don't support the military, then you are not a true American. You are not patriotic, and you need to get the fuck out of here. That's what that means. That's why people ain't outraged about it. Like, that's what it is.
Some people have a skewed vision of patriotism. They really do. They think patriotism is you have to love your country no matter what. Patriotism to me means you have to be proud of your country when it does something to make you proud. So before we wrap up, 3 things that I would do that would get me killed if I was a president, okay? Number 1, I'd stop selling weapons all over the world, okay? We sell a disgusting amount of weapons to people, okay? We built all these tanks. This is like when Bush was still president. We built all these tanks, and even the generals were like, please stop sending us more tanks. We don't need more tanks. So they showed pictures of all these tanks literally rotting in the desert in Arizona because we didn't need them. So eventually what they do is they sell them to other countries. We sell arms. Trump just made that arms deal with Saudi Arabia for like billions of dollars worth of weapons. Where do you think those weapons are going to end up? Right? You think Al-Qaeda is not going to get those weapons? You think that Hezbollah and Taliban, you think they're not going to get those weapons and use them against us? Yeah, we make money. We don't need to sell weapons to make money. Okay. Number 2, I'd pull completely out of the Middle East. You know how many military bases we have around the world? I'll let you guess, Odie. How many military bases do you think we have around the world?
Around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Or just, I would say, maybe, I'm thinking like 2 on each continent. So 20, like excluding, I don't know. I don't know.
You know what?
Yeah, because I'm thinking in the country, like Fort Bragg, Texas. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe like 20, I'm rounding up.
Not even close. If you was on Price is Right, security would drag you off the stage. 800. We have 800 military bases around the world, and it costs us $100 billion every year to maintain them.
$100 billion?
Wait, is this including all branches of military?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
800 seems like a low number, but 100 billion seems like a crazy number.
Yeah. $100 billion we spend per year to maintain 800 military bases around the world. Now, my thing is, I will just pull us out of the Middle East altogether and let the Middle East take care of itself. Put it like this. Libya, Yemen, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Palestine. Do you think any of those people are like, yay, go America? They hate us. And they have every right to hate us because we've ruined their countries. There is no building in Syria right now that stands 4 feet off the ground. They hate us, and they have every right to. We've never done anything good in the Middle East. Not from Iran, the Arab Spring back in '79, not any of that stuff. Was it '79? I think I had that wrong. But anyway,
1979, the number, another summer, hit down, world to the fucking drummer.
But you figure let's just say we cut that in half. Because we can't pull all our bases. Because you figure, right now what's going on with North Korea, we can't pull all our bases. So, but we could definitely pull half. Easy. You know? And,
there's a lot of bases that's just sitting there. I mean, I was in the military, and I can name, I can't name off the top, but I could definitely do the research on bases that I was assigned to or might have passed through that's just sitting in the nowhere with a lot of airmen, a lot of people sitting on their hands doing rudimentary jobs that could easily be given to the civilian sector.
Yeah.
Even my old base in New London, Connecticut, Groton, Connecticut, a submarine base. Them old nasty submarines, every damn sailor probably got cancer from radiation poison from them 1968 class subs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what gave me my mutant powers. That's why I could do everything I can do, but everybody can't mutate like that. You know what I'm saying?
Put it like this, and I actually put 2 and 3 together.
I went to the military. If I served in the military, I always said I wanted to be in the Navy, though, just because they get stationed by the beach, by the water. So that's all I know about that.
They get to hang out in Japan.
Japan, Hawaii. That's cool.
I mean, that's true. That's true. They do have some very exotic spots. They also got some really shitty ones. Trust me, everything ain't pretty.
Yeah. It's like you get stationed in the Ukraine. Yay.
You know what I'm saying?
But
water with dead zombie hands sticking out of it.
I actually merged 2 and 3 together because 2 was going to be pull out of the Middle East completely, and 3 was going to be close half our military bases. And then, you know what? That extra $50 billion that we saved from closing half our bases, put it toward fixing the VA. So when our soldiers come home, they get the care that they need.
See, I'm a veteran, and even I'm on the fence on that one, Merc. I feel like you give me 3 or 4 years, you don't deserve to get benefits for the rest of your life. What kind of crazy shit is that? I disagree, Merc.
I say you do for one reason. Basically because you're volunteering to do something that I would never do.
You volunteered because you were smart enough to go to college in 9 out of 10 cases. No offense, I'm just saying.
Right.
I went to the military because I was escaping a very dangerous gang situation. It either get out of Charleston. Actually, I was beating the charge. The judge said if I got out of Charleston and never came back to Charleston, he would negate my charges. And I was like, shit, I ain't ever got to come back to this bitch. You know, I was done with it because I was so deep into the damn gang and deep into all that bad stuff that
right.
I knew that, one, if I did that jail time, I probably would have been, off because way too many of my enemies was in the jail. 2, it would have just sucked me deeper into that dark underbelly of crime. Mm-hmm. And look at me now. I mean, I ain't saying I'm doing big things, but it's like a flip side, it's a complete 180 of where I could have ended if I didn't go into the military and escape, because it basically was my escape route. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And you figure that's where the military does a lot of its recruiting, in their cities, and people do it to get out of gang life. But there are also some people who are very patriotic, or they may have had family in the military. Like my friend James, he joined. He fought in the first Gulf War, and he didn't really see combat. He drove munitions. He drove trucks, But he was in Iraq, and his brother served for like a couple of decades in the military. So now, and that's the brother that he looks up to. So that inspired him to go to the military. So some people, it's like a family thing. They have brothers or parents who served, and then they go ahead and serve as well. But I figure it like this: if you are brave enough to serve, because I'm not serving. In Overwatch, I'll blow your head off. In real life, hell no. I'm not shooting nobody. Now, don't take that as a license to rob me because I don't have a gun, because I swing a very mean bat. I was like Darryl Strawberry in softball. I'll knock your head off your shoulders. So let's not get that twisted. But I figure if you're able to do something like that, to volunteer, no matter what the reason, right? I think you should get that care. And I know with the VA, a lot of people, it's like people who were hurt in the war, or if you're suffering your PTSD, the VA is just horribly, horribly underfunded, and it's understaffed. There are thousands of jobs at the VA that need to be filled, and a lot of them don't have the funding for it. They have people who talk about like they're running out of basic supplies at the VA because they're underfunded. Their computer systems are ancient. Some people are still running off of paper files. So people aren't getting the help that they need. So I would close down half those bases, bring our boys home, fund the VA, and help them get the care they need. I think they'd much rather want to be with their families than sitting on some base in Guatemala someplace doing nothing, getting stung by horseflies, getting malaria. I don't think there's malaria in Guatemala. I don't know. But I just figure like this: if you're brave enough to do, I read a story, and this is back in the Bush days, where after he started sending people to Iraq and Afghanistan, they had like 3 or 4 illegal immigrants who enlisted and fought in the war and were injured, right? And they were given their citizenship, and I was like, I was all for it. I'm saluting the TV screen like, hey, you deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
I crack on Trump for all his deferments. I'd have been in Canada quicker than you could say, hey, you hoser. If there was a draft and I had to go to Vietnam and get my legs blown off, fuck that shit.
Oh my goodness.
But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and crack on someone like John McCain, who is a true war hero. I'm not going to do that. I'll just keep my mouth shut. Obama didn't go to war. Obama was never in the military. But do you ever hear Obama come out his face and talk some bullshit about people who were in the military? No, because he's not an idiot. So, but yeah, I think that the VA is horribly underfunded, and we figure we spend all this money on garbage, on prototypes that don't work. Mm-hmm. We could easily trim 33% off the military budget and just spread that. You know how many? I mean, you figure with the extra $198 billion a year, you figure, you know how many student loan debts could be forgiven with that money?
Sure. I guess I wasn't none of the chosen few because, I remember when the paperwork got lost maybe like a month and a half ago. Mm-hmm. I remember hearing the notifications about some people whose loans were basically going to be lost forever. I was hoping that I'd be one of the chosen few, but alas, I am not. Looks like I will have to be paying Sally Mae back.
I wish they'd lose my loan.
Yeah.
But you figure they give people student loans at when I first got my loans, it was at like 6%. And then when the government took it over, it was down to 3%. But I still had half my loans at 6%, the other half at 3%. And the 6% ones are the ones that are murdering me. Because right now I owe more money than when I started. Mm. But you figure banks can borrow money at less than 1%. Go figure. And banks have money. We talked about this a while back, Odie, about historically black universities. How, when people come in, like after they graduate, people come back and they donate to their colleges, right, to help out. But a lot of people who graduate from HBUs are paying back student loan debts. So they don't really have the money to help out their alma maters.
Now, wait a minute now. Like, I love my people, but I'm going to keep it real here for a second. Mm-hmm. First of all, where HBCUs fuck up is, number one, when it comes to events like CIAA, where we are bringing thousands and thousands, maybe even over $1 million into the city of Charlotte over the course of usually just one weekend you can do it, but there's CIAA events, and that's what a lot of people don't realize when they attend these things, is that these events are going on the entire week. So you are supposed to be at the basketball games, girls and boys, supporting your school, supporting your alma mater, and instead of paying, all you got to do is forego one of the parties that don't go, that like where the promoters aren't giving any money back to your school, forego one of them. That's it. And you take that $50 that you would have paid to get into the club and put that shit towards your alma mater. If everybody did that, HBCUs would be in better shape. So I'll get on, like my people, like, it ain't just about student loans. Like, we got the money. We just ain't, like, paying the right shit. Like, that's what it is.
Right.
And then when G-Ho comes, the same thing happens. Your homecoming's in town. Instead of paying money, you out here having cookouts and shit. That's all well and good, but where is the money? Fellowship is just as important as sustainability, and we don't have that.
I'll tell you something funny. When the new Galaxy phone came out, one of my coworkers noticed that I had the new Galaxy phone, and she was like, "Oh, you got the new Galaxy phone? You must be rich." And I was like, "Girl, let me tell you, I've been wearing this shirt right here since 2006, and that wasn't even an exaggeration. I buy clothes by attrition. If a shirt gets too worn out to wear, then I buy another one. But I don't make money to be out there just, I'm going to Club Friday and buy a whole new outfit to go to the club. I don't even go to the club, So it's just, with the way wages are stagnating, you're right. Instead of taking that $50 and going to the club, you could just give it to your alma mater. But, at the same time, it's not that way for everybody. Because there's some people who would love to go to the club, and they don't even have money for the club, much less for their alma mater.
I'm talking. You talking about the ones who legitimately can't afford to go. I'm talking about the ones that they know who they are. Like really, you claim to not have any money, but you just bought like you said, 2 new outfits to be dipping and doing it out here this whole weekend, and I know you spent more than $50 or even $25.
Right.
You spent more than that to go out, so surely let your alma mater get a piece of that.
Yeah, true. Now, before we wrap it up, do you have what are your final thoughts, just on anything?
I support whatever Queen Maxine says. Queen Maxine, Aunt Maxine, Miss Maxine, whatever you want to call her. Just maybe even call her your next Madam President. I don't know, but I just hope that she really comes through and just keeps up the good fight.
Yeah. What about you, Blue? What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts is, man, I don't know what to say about this world. It's almost like we in the Twilight Zone, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I really feel like I'm in Tales of the Dark Side, the Twilight Zone, some alternate universe, because honestly, let's say I was frozen for like 10 or 20 years and I woke up and this was today. I would swear this was an alternate universe. There's just no way that the timeline for when I was born should have got us to where we are today. That's all I got to say about it. You know what I'm saying?
I remember watching The Simpsons years ago, and they had a guy, one of the little side jokes. A guy comes out of a coma after like 20 years, and he was like, "Does Sonny and Cher still have that stupid show on television?" He was like, "Oh yeah, Sonny is a mayor and Cher won an Oscar." And he was like, "Good night," and just flatlines. Because it's like, how do we get here? How do we get there from here? You know.
That's funny that you brought up The Simpsons, because that's what I was going to say in regards to what Blue said. Instead of feeling like I'm in an alternate universe, I feel like I'm in the Simpsons episode.
It's like
but it's not ending.
Yeah, it's like one of those dreams where like you dream that you're rich, and you wake up and it's like, God damn it, It's kind of like that, except that every day I wake up, I'm like, Trump's still president. I'm like, God damn it, this bullshit, like every day. So, it's we just gotta do our best to survive. And I will say one thing before we wrap it up. I heard a pundit say this. People said that, and I don't mean to leave it on a grim note, but some people said, like, if you survived Reagan, if you survived Bush, you'll survive Trump. But remember, everybody didn't make it out under Reagan, and everybody didn't make it out under Bush. So you just got to watch your P's and Q's. You just got to stay sharp and stay ready, because the only way we're going to make it out of this is together, So, and we need as many people as we can, so just stay sharp and stay ready and, be on your toes. So, and that's all I had.
Will you hit us with that outro?
Oops.
That's all good.
And that concludes another episode of POLI-TRICKS, where Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies tune in on Google Play. Oh, man, I forgot again. Google Play, iTunes Podcast, or our newest venture, which is compatible with Amazon products. Hold on. Amazon, Alexa, play Urban Breakdown Podcast.
All right.
I can't get the program Urban Breakdown from TuneIn right now.
That's not what I said, ho. Alexa, play the Urban Breakdown Podcast.
Getting the latest episode of the Urban Breakdown. Here it is from TuneIn.
All right, Alexa, stop that. I just needed to know what podcast you were using. Alexa. So tune in. So that's Google Play. Play. Shut up, ho. I said shut up. So that's Google Play. That's iTunes Podcast on the Apple products, and that's tune in on Alexa products or via an app. And that's how you get the Urban Breakdown, which current shows are POLI-TRICKS and 360 Degrees. On the horizon is He Said, She Said, Interview 180, and a number of other podcast shows that come to your telephone, tablet, PC, or whatever other means you do to listen. All right, be well.
I start kissing you back. Oh yeah, anything to throw you off track. I said